Welcome to Power of the Tribe podcast. I'm your host, John Connors. I'm also the founder and head instructor of Connors Martial Arts. We're located here in Norwood, Massachusetts. We teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai kickboxing, mixed martial arts to kids and adults. Reach out to us, send us a message, give us a call, come down and see us. We'll make your life better. It'll be more fulfilling. You'll get in better shape. You'll feel better about yourself. You'll challenge yourself. You'll grow. You'll avoid the hell of sitting at home on your couch, not doing anything.
Right, and the latest studies say you'll be 50% happier.
Absolutely.
50, 40 to 30 to 50.
That's science.
Yeah.
Dan Robin, my co-host. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing good. How
You
are
do.
doing?
You look a little peppy. You look great, actually, because I know you've been doing the Jerry Seinfeld method.
It's the calendar has changed my life.
Calendar method.
Like I said, this podcast has at least changed our lives, if not anyone else listening.
That's all that really matters.
I don't know if anyone's not paying attention. All I did was Jerry Seinfeld said he put up a calendar and made a mark every time he wrote jokes, right? Every day he wrote jokes, he would mark that calendar.
And it's a big visible calendar that you see every day.
Yeah.
I have one on my bedroom door, so when I get up, I see it every day.
What do you mark on it? This is the beauty of the calendar. It doesn't have to be writing jokes. It's whatever you want to mark on that calendar.
I write jokes.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah, he said write jokes, put a big red X, and try to string together as many red X's as possible. What I'm doing, Dan, is I'm writing when I don't have alcohol and when I eat healthy, because I work out pretty much all the time anyways. And it's made a big difference. Yeah.
Right. So you don't need it for the workout.
No, that's getting done anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm putting a big X through the day if I eat healthy, and then I circle it, or just sometimes it's just a circle because I didn't eat healthy for working out.
Nice.
And that's it. Oh, and at the bottom I'm writing my weight. I think that's
Awesome.
not for anyone that cares about their weight. I think this is a really good idea, just because, you know, it would be very hard for a lot of people, especially people whose weight swings like 20 pounds, to just watch it creep up day after day after day and not do anything.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like you'd almost have to look at it and feel like, all right, I've got to stop this.
Yeah, and I have a target weight because I'm competing now that I
Right.
have to weigh at, and that's a strong motivation for me. Honestly, I would not have stopped drinking if I didn't have to make that weight, and I would never make the weight if I was drinking.
Right.
So it just gets me in such better shape. And yeah, once I start creeping up, geez, if I'm 4 pounds over the weight, yeah, I get stressed, and I'm like, I got to fix this, and it's not unhealthy because the weight that I compete at is a very healthy weight for me.
Right.
And I'm not doing anything
And
crazy.
I have no reason, but I just sort of jumped on the bandwagon. You're competing. I'm not, but I started eating
And you look
healthy,
great.
and
I could see immediately. I haven't seen you in a couple weeks.
And usually it's not visible. But I don't think I've ever lost. So it used to be sort of frustrating. I'd lose or gain 10 pounds, and no one could notice, you know.
Yeah.
But I think I'm down about maybe 15 pounds now.
In what period of time?
Took about 3 weeks.
3 weeks. That's very cool.
And all it is not eating like a pig. I don't think I've ever gone 3 weeks without eating like a pig in my whole life. I think I was secretly fatter than I thought I was. You know what I mean?
You think you could trademark that? Come up with some kind of book? The Dan Robin Don't Eat Like a Pig
Don't
diet?
eat like a pig and you'll be fine. I'm thinking, so it's why, other times I've tried to get in better shape and all this. And I'm like, why? This is different. I've never lost 15 pounds before in my life, and
I found that 3 week mark is a key mark.
Yeah.
Because when I lost 11 pounds preparing it's a couple of months ago, and I stopped drinking and really dialed in the diet, and nothing happens for the first week.
Yeah.
And then by the third week, I lost 11 pounds, which was
the
a lot
first
for me.
week, it was, I felt really hungry and I wasn't losing weight. And I was like, what is this? But I told you at the time, I knew it was going to kick in. It had to. But what do you think about this? I almost don't think the idea of going on a diet is a good idea. For someone to just say, I'm going to go on a diet, it sort of implies you're going to stop.
It does.
Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm
the
gonna
connotation of diet in our culture is a short-term deprivation.
right.
And it's deprivation too. So
Right.
it's like, okay, I'm going to have pain for a short period of time, get to some destination, and then get off this hell wagon and go back to the way I was.
And I think that's how I always saw it. I was like,
Mm.
let me get down to 180 pounds, and then I can stop this nonsense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think for the first time, what's different is, it's like I sort of came mentally to a place where I was like, I'm gonna just have to change what I'm doing, eating like a pig all the time. And I've no, end result. I'm not aiming. I don't even think you should probably have a goal weight, unless you have to because you're competing.
Well, yes.
But-
yeah, I hear what you're saying. So it's sort of what we had said, I think, in the previous podcast, focus on the process instead of the goal.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it applies to a lot of things, right? It's sort of
Yeah.
like we said with jiu-jitsu, instead of like, I need to get to my purple belt. It's like, just make up your mind that you're going to be a jiu-jitsu person. You're going to come in 3-4 times a week or whatever you can, 2 times, whatever you can do, and make up that mind and let the results come. And I think that's the same with the diet, where like, don't be like, I'm going on a diet to get to this weight. Just sort of like, I've got to eat healthier and I'm going to do it from now on.
I think that's important because what can happen, especially if you're working out a lot, is you can trick yourself and you can have a hard workout and be 3 pounds dehydrated and say, oh, I lost 3 pounds, and you really haven't at all.
Right.
And as soon as you hydrate back up, which is, you don't want to be dehydrated, then those supposed gains are gone.
And what do you think, as a side point while I was doing this, I also sort of thought about the harm of, see what you think about this, about making statements about yourself. So what I mean is, when I used to think about like, I'm going to eat healthy, people say like, like I'm someone that can't give up my pasta or something like that. And you're like, don't say I'm someone who, and then I started
Dan, I'm a
expanding-
pasta person.
Yeah. I started expanding it out. Like, you should not say I'm someone who, maybe about anything. Like everyone knows when you give advice, like not to say negative things about yourself. Everyone's heard the advice, like don't, we all kind of know it's not good to like stare in the mirror and be like, I'm a loser. And like we all kind of gut level know that's not a good thing to do. But I'm starting to think you shouldn't even do that about good things.
That's
like,
interesting.
I'm not even sure you should stare in the mirror and be like, I'm a winner, something like that. It's like, because then you lose.
Yeah,
and
that's
you're
what
like,
I do every morning. I say, you are a strong, confident woman as I look in the mirror. Yeah.
But I'm not sure you should ever say anything about yourself. Like, so there's the obvious.
I'm intrigued by this, Dan. I find it fascinating because I will tell you that there's a lot of advice that tells you to say positive things.
That's what I was going to go with.
And you could say, I did it a while. I don't know if I do it right now, but I think more than a year ago when I started really eating healthy, I started to try to create an identity where, I don't eat that. I only eat whole natural food. I don't eat donuts. That's not food to me. And that identity, I thought, did give me some push and some strength to go in the right direction. But I'm intrigued with what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe. And of course, it could be a little of each. And of course, with most of my advice, it's ill thought out. So I'm just saying now.
Kind of seat of the pants.
I sort of ill thought out, but usually turns out to be right after I think about it. So then there's intermediate. So we all know not to say negative things. It's not a good thing to insult yourself. Then there's these intermediate things, which it's sort of obvious could hold you back if you're like here's a common one. I can't get through my day without coffee. Everyone says that, right? I need my coffee.
Yeah.
And you're sort of convincing yourself it's true, and maybe it's not true. Or maybe
it's
it is true.
not true.
Right.
It's obviously not true. We put a gun to your head, you're getting through the day without
and
coffee.
So even
or you don't have coffee. If you're
You're
some
right.
place where they don't have coffee, you're going to get through the day.
Right. And for me, it used to be, talking about eating healthier, and I say, well, you should probably cut out all the pasta and all those carbs. And I'd say, I can't cut out the pasta. Obviously, I could. I did. Do you know what I mean? It's just so. I feel like when you say things about yourself, you dig yourself in.
Those are negative things, actually, though, when you say that you're a pasta person. I don't think that's necessarily positive, or I'm a coffee person.
Now getting to the positive, even the positive. So there's gray area here, right? Like if you're looking in the mirror and saying like, you can do this, like that's not about yourself. That's and that's a positive thing. That's a affirmation, but it's not defining you. It's not saying I'm someone who, Like I just feel a lot
So
of
funny,
people
Dan. I've been thinking so much about this. It's so funny that you bring this up in this podcast.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because it's a little bit related to facts. Like everybody has an opinion these days about everything, about healthcare, whether we should be in Syria or not. Like they have strong convictions about stuff that they have no business having any opinion about at all, because they don't have any information, they don't have any expertise. But people really feel entitled to have conviction about stuff that they have no business having conviction about.
Right.
And even stuff that's in your wheelhouse that you know, there's few things that you can be 100% certain about. You know, you could say, I'm 95% certain that X is true. And that's more accurate, right?
Right.
So it kind of applies to your identity. You're like, yeah, I'm 95% certain that this is my identity. So I get what you're saying there.
Right. And some things you can be certain that you're working hard. You can be certain that you're trying your best. You can be certain that you're putting in a huge effort.
The only thing I would add to this idea of not having a crystal clear identity is I think we can change ourselves.
Right.
So if we're used to eating unhealthy, you know, that is kind of the type of person we are, but we can change that over time. So, you know, by just repeated behavior, and you can change your nervous system. That's what I've been involved with for several years now, mostly in the realm of performance anxiety, like dealing with the nerves before you go compete and everything.
But that's a perfect example, right?
Mm-hmm.
People will say, I'm just an anxious person. And then that sort of digs them in. They don't think, I can change it. I don't have to be an anxious person.
Then here's to your point. If somebody says, I'm completely confident, and they're shitting their pants, that creates like a cognitive dissonance. They don't really believe it, and then it doesn't work at all.
Yeah. The only thing is I wonder if there are some positive things you can say, and it does help people. But again, I've seen it, and we've seen it too, where a common one, especially like in Jiu-Jitsu or MMA community, is something like, I refuse to lose. I'm someone who refuses to lose. But then you lose. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Like,
right.
And some
it's
people,
a little nonsensical.
Some people get devastated by it. If you can do that and you're not devastated, then I guess go ahead by all means. But I have, you know, people do get devastated when they're convinced. They're like, I'm someone, I can't be beat. Then they're beat, and it really hurts them. You know, it really confuses or throws them, puts them on their heels.
Yeah. The framework I'm working in currently is, you know, I want to become a Masters world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm creating a process and a system that will send me in that direction, and I'll at some point in the future arrive there and be that. That will be my identity.
Right.
But the process and the system, that is in my control. I can do all those daily things that are going to move me closer to that end result. So I guess my identity is, it's not currently world champion, but it could be I'm the type of person that is moving toward becoming a world champion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then it's a directional thing. It's like your identity is the type of person that does things on a day-to-day basis that moves you in that direction.
Yeah. And it applies, again, across the board. It can be jiu-jitsu, or it could be your health habits or your workout habits or your
career,
diet,
your
or your career, or
yeah.
any hobby you have. Yeah, how much you want to commit to it on a day-to-day. That's what I think. I think it comes back to what you said before, process, right? And just, and it's not sort of like the idea of a diet. Like, it's not this temporary, let me do this for now and then get my results, and then I can get back to normal. You know, it's sort of,
yeah,
do you
there's
want
a
to make
lesson
a longer change or not?
Yeah, and there's a lesson in your 3-week experience. You don't get results immediately for the most part. There's a lag in results. There's a lag between efforts and results. And I see it at the extreme sometime in the academy. We had a guy just recently who joined, and he was coming every day, and he was so excited. And for about 2 weeks, the guy was in my face every day. And then I turn around, and he's gone, and he's dropping out now. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you just figured out where the men's room is, and you had enough already. It's like, how can you possibly have given yourself any time for results? But people are impatient.
And you said you saw that at the yoga studio, right? Like, when right?
I
People would be
forgot
like,
about that.
But you said the same, but it's the same thing that we always
Exact
try to
same
emphasize
phenomenon.
that these aren't just about jiu-jitsu. Like it applies to
They'd
like
be like,
people coming
this
about this
yoga is my life. Jiu-jitsu is my life. This changed me forever. And then they're like, yeah, I'm done.
gone.
Yeah. 3 weeks later. But I guess they don't have self-knowledge. I don't know. You know the guy Scott Adams who draws Dilbert,
Yeah.
the comic strip? He's big on affirmations. So apparently before he became successful as a comic strip writer, he would write out affirmations. I'm a successful comic strip writer or something, write it out like 15 times as he had some process, which is interesting. So he's kind of doing the positive identity thing.
Yeah. No, again, maybe it works.
And it's
for
all
some-
correlation. You don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like a million people could do it, and it works for 3 people, and he happens to be one of those 3 people. I think anything that reinforces your process and your system to get you to do what you should be doing is probably good, right?
For me, it's the calendar.
Calendar's good, man.
Calendar is huge. I already have my September one ready to go.
Nice.
I think I'll just keep it up forever. That's the thing too. Like that's my mindset is not like what weight do I want to get to. I told you I think before we were on there, I'm not aiming at a weight anymore. And I used to do that. Like I just want to get to this weight. So I went right past the weight that I'd said and I'm like, well, what kind of goal was that? Like what, like
Interesting.
so what? So I got to that weight. So now I don't have a weight that I want to get to. I don't have anything specific. I don't even care if I eat unhealthy one day. You know what I mean? I'm sort of like, okay, I don't get my X on the calendar that day, but now I want it. Again, if I just started having day after day without eating healthy, that calendar would be staring me in the face. And
Right. It seems to me maybe, you've heard this, that somebody famous said, I don't know what I think until I write it down. So the process of writing is a process that helps a person clarify their thoughts. So you get all these thoughts that are bouncing around your head, and you start writing things down, you start to organize your thoughts, you start to get clarity. In a way, this calendar is giving you clarity of how you want to eat and how you want to exercise. Before the calendar, you had a lot of competing ideas and motivations bouncing around in your head probably about eating and exercising and so forth, and it's not clear. Now it's out,
right.
written in black and white or red, whatever it is, right in front of you. Oh, that clarifies really your parameters, what you want to really do.
I just read something that reflects that, which was about like what's the secret, like a secret weapon in working out or in getting in better shape or getting stronger, something like this. And they said the secret weapon was a notebook. And it was if you come home and you write down what you did and the weights say, then you can prove like, am I getting stronger? And it helps encourage you, and it stares you right in the face like I am improving. I used to do this much weight, now I do this much weight. And we've talked, I think before.
Dan,
on the podcast,
I've done that for decades. I've always had little notebooks. I've always done that
for workouts,
for lifting weights and working out, always. And what I've found is, I would collect all these little books and I just toss them in a pile and never look at them again. But there's something about the recording of your activity like that just keeps you in the flow of the activity, and it keeps you more regular at what you're doing. The most I ever would do is I would look back to like the week before to see what I did. I never look back to the year before.
right.
And like sometimes you would make progress, but there's a point when you're an adult where your strength sort of levels off and you're really not making progress. But it's still, then I would just vary the exercises, do some new exercise. But I think it's very helpful at keeping you just on track of doing it. I do it with my Wim Hof. I write down how long I've held my breath and when I did it, the date, the time, and so forth. And then when I pick up the notebook, if I skip 2 days, it makes an impact. I go, ooh, I skipped 2 days. I got to get back on the stick and do this regularly. And I think it's so simple and so helpful, definitely.
Well, I don't know if everyone's the same with this, but for me with working out, it's like I really need to see some sort of progress. I really want to see the weights go up or the speed go up or the distance go up, something like this, or else, I don't like to feel that I'm treading water. I mean, I guess it's okay. Some people just want to tread water. They just want to stay. But I noticed that in the gym I go to, at least the time I go, often there's people that are older than me there. And I'm really like drenched in sweat, or
You're the young buck.
Yeah, exactly.
The
I'm the young
Achilles
stud.
of
And but I'm drenched in sweat.
Yeah.
I'm really knocking myself out in that gym, and
And
other
they're just
people
going
are sort
through
of
the motions.
yeah. Well, they're reading magazines. Do you know what I mean? During the workout,
They're on the
you know?
lap pull down and they're like, yeah, I saw that new Netflix
Yeah,
special.
they're
just
talking.
having-
Well, really, they're talking on the phone, or they're, if I'm on the treadmill, I'm dying.
Yeah.
And there's other people reading, they on the treadmills or
So
on
crazy,
the they sit down on the bike, and they start pedaling and they read. You see them reading a magazine. And I'm not, especially if you're really old, then fine. You're not trying to you're just trying to keep yourself in some
Right.
sort of shape. That's fine. But especially for younger people, I don't know about, or if you're just starting out, say, fine, I'm not trying to go after everyone that reads a magazine while they work out, but that's not my style. If I made it all the way to the gym, I want to get some results while I'm there.
I think you're right. I think we're hardwired to work hard, but only to see progress. We're hardwired to conserve energy. So if we're working hard and we're not getting any result, we're going to stop doing it. And that's just human nature. And thank God it is, or we wouldn't be here.
Just
Probably we
wasting
would have
time.
wasted our time. But then again, there's always that, the first week of eating really healthy, I didn't get any result,
Yeah.
So there's always that thing of like, when should I persist and when should I change course and drop this activity?
Right. And a perfect example is jiu-jitsu,
Perfect example.
because there's huge plateaus and hugely invisible gains, right?
Right.
Where
Yeah, your self-assessment is so tricky. So this is a great segue. Dan, you are excellent at segueing. You should put that in your positive identity thing.
yeah, I'll say it 5 times into the mirror. You are great at segueing. I gotta aim low at first.
Start small.
Yeah.
This identity thing, though, to get back to it before I move on to jiu-jitsu, it's so important because, I did the Boston Open, and I had a lot of anxiety. I got a new book by Tom Bunn. I think we mentioned it.
Yeah.
And it had some great exercises to dealing with anxiety and panic. And I went through all the exercises for about 3 weeks. A few times I went through the program, and it made a huge difference. And I think it's changed my nervous system. So I did not have the same level of anxiety when I went out to Vegas to compete. And I used to have an amazing anxiety, Dan, flying in a plane. I'd almost pass out. And I used a lot of different strategies over the years. But this last trip, we touched down in Vegas, and it occurred to me, oh yeah, we just flew from Vegas to Vegas. Like, the flight it causes there's no anxiety at all, to the point where I'm not even realizing that I'm flying.
Right. So you're saying to combat the anxiety for your matches, you think your whole nervous system's changed, so you're feeling less
I think it's
anxiety
all
in all kinds of
associated.
situations.
Yeah, because before, when I had a lot of anxiety years ago, even driving over a bridge like the Tobin Bridge in Boston would get me a little woozy and a little like, oh
Really?
shit, disorienting, sweaty. Yeah,
What is it, a height thing?
it's everything, Dan. Yeah, it's height. It's like I'm like, am I going to just drive my car deliberately off this bridge? Like, you have all these crazy notions. I think when your nervous system gets out of whack, a lot of things can start triggering tremendous anxiety.
And just as a broader point, it's interesting that how few people, unless I'm missing out on some segment of the population, people don't work on this. You know what I mean? There's people that have a lot of anxiety and do not work on it.
They don't,
ever.
Dan. It's so bizarre.
So, I mean, a lot of people at least try to lose weight or try to work out or try to get in shape. Nobody tries to fix their anxiety or fix their depression or fix their... Well, I mean, depending on if you're really... You work on it, of course, if it's debilitating. But if it's a little bit, you know what I mean? For those of us who have like a little anxiety or, prone to anxiety or prone to depression or then they tend not to work on it, right?
I
would guess.
And you can work on it.
Yeah.
And everybody has a different nervous system. But I think mine has changed now. I'm going to keep working on it. The other thing I noticed is some of the tactics and strategies I used years ago had a beneficial effect. I'm almost done with them now. Like, I don't need them. Like, I used to have this mantra, oh, I love to fly. I love to fly. And that helped me flying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even need it anymore. So I just get on the plane and I'm reading or whatever the hell I'm doing, daydreaming, and I don't even need it anymore. because I think I've somehow changed my autonomic nervous system, I guess would be the way to
Right,
say
and
it.
then presumably little things in life that you're not explicitly preparing for, but I don't know, like a confrontation in the supermarket, you're going to be you're not going to feel the anxiety.
I think so,
Because
and I think this idea, what you were saying is, yeah, maybe we don't want to have an overly positive sense of our identity or telling ourselves that we're fearless or whatever the hell it is. But, if we're working on ourselves, if we're involved in a process, we can change our identity, and we can become a fit person, a healthy eating person, confident person, a person without undue anxiety, whatever it is that you want. You can move
I'm working
yourself
on
toward
it.
it. Yeah, but that's the point: is you got to work on it. If thinking you're already there, if that motivates you to work on it more, I guess that's good. Sometimes people, I'm already there, and they lose
Right.
motivation, right?
You're not going to work on anxiety if you're telling yourself you're fearless.
I agree. I've seen that before. I've seen people I remember one guy who would consistently underperform because of anxiety, and he would never admit that he had anxiety.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that. I think it's because in our culture, maybe in all the cultures of the world, when a man has fear and anxiety, we say he's got a weak character.
Right.
He's a coward. And probably physiologically, it's a nervous system issue. And if he can fix his nervous system, like he could fix his kidneys or fix his digestive system, some other system, he could behave differently. And then he wouldn't be, quote unquote, a coward.
Not to mention, especially if it's someone competing, even if you're getting in there, you're doing something that 99% of people won't do. You're already sort of demonstrating you're not actually cowardly. You're not actually
right.
Have a character flaw.
Well, if we're going to change ourselves too, Dan, I guess you have to do something consistently to change. And it's got to be something that requires some effort, some struggle, some little bit of pain, If it's easy, I don't think that changes you, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, I think if you're reading a magazine through your workout, well, I know all these are common gym things, but just this morning I had one where I wanted to use this one machine, and someone sat on it talking, texting, or, he was staring at his phone and texting for, I don't know, half an hour. And I didn't feel, you know what I mean? I didn't really feel like saying, hey, could you?
Did you feel like taking his head and like lifting up the plates in the machine and smashing his head down with the plates?
I did. Well, yeah.
That's my fantasy.
I didn't even do any. I didn't even, I was considering saying, hey, are you going to? I'm sure I could have just said, hey, are you going to? But I just went and used something else. But again, it's just sort of the mindset, half an hour sitting there texting. I'm not at the gym for that.
Yeah, people delude themselves, so they do that. They think, I get a trainer, I go twice a week, I'm all set. And then they do the opposite. They do the I eat like a pig diet, and they don't make any progress at all. And they, then they're on statins for their cholesterol, and they're on high blood pressure medication, and they're just like, I'm pre-diabetic. That's just the way it is, man. I'm doing everything I can. And they're deluding themselves. So they're really not doing everything they can, obviously. So not everybody. I know it's hard. I don't want to sound like a hard ass, like a prick.
Especially.
I mean, if you
just
enjoy your life. If you want to
to
just eat everything and let it go. I mean, I don't think any different of you. You know what I mean? It's a choice, but I feel better eating healthier. So jiu-jitsu. We got to bring this all back. Do you want to hear how I did it? I went out to the IBJJF Masters Worlds Championship in Las Vegas.
Yes, and
Dun, dun,
I already know the
dun.
results, and they're kind of interesting.
Do you want to hear?
The details are interesting.
All right, so be self-indulgent here. We'll talk about myself. So, fortunately, I competed at the Boston Open when my son Rory was challenged me to do it, like a jerk. No, I'm kidding. He's awesome. But since I did Boston and won, that gave me a bye in the first round, so I didn't have to compete in the first round of the Worlds, Masters Worlds. So that was great. So my first match, everything went exactly according to plan.
This is the second round.
Second round, I took the guy down, the takedown that I'd been practicing and training, and then I finished him with the submission that I wanted to do, which was the paper cutter choke. So,
the paper cutter.
Yep, I think it was less than 2 minutes that the match lasted. It was great. Everything went wonderfully, so I was super happy.
I didn't even know you were working on that.
Yeah. And then the next match was against the number one seed in the whole division. So to put this in perspective, you get certain points for winning in competition and so forth. So I had 26 points, I think, because I won at Boston. Guess how many points he had, Dan?
More.
534 points. He had more than 20 times the points that I had.
So that means he competes. He's probably won 20 tournaments, roughly, right? If you,
I guess. I mean, I'll tell you, he was very, very good. And but I knew his game. He wanted to get me in the close guard, and he works his submissions and sweeps. And dude, so I had a takedown that I wanted to do, so I got the takedown. And then the next 4 minutes was him trying to pull me into his close guard and me resisting. And it's probably not that interesting to watch, but it was so hard. Took everything I could do, and I was freaking so exhausted at the end of it. But I beat him 2-0. And he was a, really gracious martial artist, and the guy never stopped attacking. I have a lot of respect for that guy's jiu-jitsu. Holy cow.
so that was round 3.
That was the semi. So now I'm in the finals.
Now the finals for round 4.
It's all going according to plan, Dan. And then in the finals, I went to take the guy down, and the ref ruled that I was out of bounds. So they didn't give me 2 points for the takedown. They gave me a advantage point, so that's a tiebreaker point. So then we went back at it again. I tried to take him down again. It didn't work, and I ended up pulling guard. And then he was trying to pass my guard. I was defending. And then the clock started running down, and it's 0-0. I have one advantage, and time runs out. And I'm like, I did it. I won the world champion. Masters
You're the world champion.
And then we stand up, and now the ref has this prerogative. He gives an advantage point to the other player. He almost passed, they're saying, which
Okay.
I disagree, but it's subjective. So now we're tied, one advantage point each. So now the referee decides who won the match. So who do you think he picked? Of course he picks the other guy because he just threw him an advantage point. I don't think I've ever – this comes up, I think, like 1 out of 200 matches. I don't know what the stats are, but I don't know if I've ever seen the ref tie it up and then give it to the other person. I wonder what the numbers are on that. Like give one person an advantage to tie it and then choose the first person.
Right.
I wonder. I bet that is I bet you that's way less frequent for some reason. I don't know. But
so no one ever scored any points on you all tournament.
The whole tournament.
Like no
Essentially,
takedowns, no
nothing.
passing, nothing.
No sweeps. Essentially a flawless, impeccable performance.
0 points against you, and you didn't win the
And
tournament.
I didn't win. I got a silver medal. But I learned some good lessons. One of them is not to sit on a lead of one advantage. Like I should have been attacking more and trying to score more points. That's what I'll do next time. And it was a great experience. Jiu-jitsu is very technical. So, and there's some things, I saw somebody write this on Facebook, and it's very true, and I've been repeating it the last week. There's some things you can only learn in competition. And that is one of them. Like, you're really not going to learn that in practice. And my son was winning a match by a point with like 2 seconds left, and he got jobbed. He went to pull guard, and the guy reached and like touched a finger to his knee, so they considered that a takedown for the other guy. So it was just, we learned some hard lessons, but it's all good because it's all part of the process. And
Right.
I'm trying to move toward Masters World Champion. Guess what? I just moved a lot closer because I came as humanly possible to it without actually attaining it. So I definitely have moved closer, and I learned some
And you
things.
still have your motivation.
Still have my motivation. I have my health, God bless, and my son, and it's all great. And we had a good group of friends out there competing, and it was great. It was an awesome experience. Yeah, a lot of fun.
And again, arguably,
And tough, Dan. It's
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
It's hard. And I think I had less anxiety than I've probably ever had competing, and so that's good. I've improved on that front. And I also think I've not had my best performance yet. I think I'm still tight when I'm competing. You know what I mean? So I'm not managing my energy well. I'm not expressing myself fully.
and that's
So
what I was
that's
about
to
to say.
look forward to.
Arguably, you have a lot the ability to improve a lot more than someone who has 40 tournaments in the last year already. Like they're sort of peaking probably.
I think so.
Whereas you're sort of only have a few tournaments. Like, you know what I mean? You have a lot more gain.
This is my fourth tournament in 20 years. So, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. So that was great. So it's all fantastic. And my son got third place in no-gi in a tournament out there. They had like the Las Vegas Open. He has some great matches. So fun to watch him. He's an inspiration to me because he does fully express himself. He gets out there and does all his techniques and just has great matches. Yeah.
Yeah, he has great jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So now back to jiu-jitsu in general, because you're talking about how. So I was listening to Annie Duke on a podcast. So she's a professional poker player. I think she studied linguistics at university level. So pretty smart lady.
She was on Celebrity Apprentice with President Trump. Yes, she got jobbed, actually.
I bet.
She was in the finale against Joan Rivers. See, I have all kinds of knowledge, John. And Trump was friends with Joan Rivers and gave it to her when clearly Annie Duke deserved the nod.
I could see that. Okay, so she was talking about decision-making and poker, and she came up with some interesting ideas that I think apply somewhat to jiu-jitsu, and they apply to life in general, of course. So in poker, as you know, there's a fair amount of luck involved. So that's the tricky thing about poker. So when people go to evaluate their play and their decisions, they can rationalize mistakes sometimes as not mistakes. Right. She said, she had been, when she first started, she was playing with people who had been playing for 40 years, and to her it looked like they hadn't improved in 38 years. So, what's going on there? They're rationalizing away their mistakes. And that's the big problem with poker and in life. You make an investment in something maybe, and a stock goes bankrupt or lose a lot. You go, well, that's not my fault. I couldn't see this happening or blah, blah, blah. And they're not being objective at analyze. And in poker, you can win sometimes, but you've made the wrong decision.
Right.
So the best players in poker analyze their decision-making properly, and they're aiming for good quality decisions, not aiming for results per se.
So this is a different thing than not seeing your mistakes and not seeing your errors. You're saying rationalize them away. Because I could imagine
it amounts to the same thing as not seeing.
But I can imagine someone 38 years, like they just didn't even know they're doing something wrong.
Well, I think when you rationalize your mistakes, you stop looking for them, and it's sort of two things they go together. Yeah. So, and the other thing she said is, in any given experience of poker, there's learning opportunities. So let's say they play for a few hours and there's 100 learning opportunities. How many of those opportunities are you going to capture and make fruitful for you? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that applies to jiu-jitsu. If I go and I train for 25 minutes, 30 minutes rolling with somebody, how many opportunities to learn are there? And how many of those opportunities am I capturing and actually recording them as a learning moment and improving my game?
That's an interesting way, a good, productive way of looking at it too.
And so she related. So why are they not seeing these mistakes? Why are they rationalizing it? And what it is they're associating the pain of the mistake as a detraction from their identity. So I have this identity. If I admit I made a mistake, I'm going to feel less about myself. And that is too painful, so I'd rather not admit I made any mistake. Kind of a common dilemma that people might find themselves
in. So in this case, they're sort of like, I'm an awesome poker player.
Yeah, the guy was an idiot. He should never have check raised me there. He did a stupid play and won. And the reality is they actually did make some mistake.
So another very hard thing to do in life for anybody is just that ability to step back and say, did I do something wrong? What or can I improve? And that could be relationships, or you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, and it's very hard. It's very hard.
Dan, I'm dumbfounded how few people ever ask, how am I doing? How could I do better? I almost never hear anybody say that.
That's interesting.
Unbelievable.
You don't think
to
of
me.
It, right?
They don't even think about it. Which brings us to another thing that she brought up in this podcast, and it coincides with the theme of power of the tribe, is you need a group. You need a tribe. You need a council of rational thinkers that you can bring your experiences to, and they can help you parse them out and say, actually, it looks like you made a mistake here, blah, blah, blah. And you have a culture of ruthlessly examining your performance and your mistakes from a rational point of view.
Right. It all goes hand in hand with, and then checking your ego. Maybe don't define yourself as perfect in any area or amazing in any area, and then be able to ask, what did I do wrong, or how could I improve this, or
Dan, I totally agree with you. And I was thinking about this at the tournament and in jiu-jitsu in general. So many people go to these tournaments, I think the vast majority, and even come to jiu-jitsu training as a way to test themselves, as to prove themselves. You hear it all the time, and it never gets questioned. I'm going to test myself today. And that's probably not the most productive perspective. And it's about defining your identity that we're talking about earlier, where instead, if you approached everything, even if I approached the tournaments as, what can I learn? What mistakes can I uncover? You know, what can I learn about jiu-jitsu? Like Annie Duke was saying, every time I played poker, more and more of the science of poker revealed itself to me. So what is going to reveal itself to me? I think if we consistently have that perspective, our performance is just going to improve faster than any other way possible. But it's sort of not our culture, right? Do you ever hear that?
No, I know.
Yeah, it's always about, we're going to test ourselves. We're going to see what we're made of. I want to see where I fit in. You know, it's almost like we're trying to, you know, either find out where we are in the hierarchy, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we're higher than we were before, or higher than we thought we were. And that's not.
It's interesting. This advice is really in the face of most of the advice you hear out there, right? It's sort of, you know, anti all the things you're talking about. Anti saying, I'm going to test myself. Anti talking yourself up relentlessly.
I'm going to prove people wrong. About myself is what they're saying, right?
Yeah. And just a totally different approach.
And if you come to training, you come to a jiu-jitsu training, and if you go in there to test yourself and to prove that you're something, or to find out where you are in the mix of things, if that's your focus, how can you be focusing on learning and improving and fixing a mistake or uncovering a mistake?
Right.
It'd be impossible or very hard.
It's more like if you come at it that way, it's more like a 0-1 of did I win or did I not?
Yeah. And you maybe, for 20% of your training, you can drop that ego perspective and say, okay, oh yeah, I got to learn. I got to keep my elbow in here instead of having. So then you get one learning opportunity instead of the 100 learning opportunities. And I suffer for myself, Dan. And when I come in the academy, that sometimes I'm like, shoot, I don't want this guy to get over on me. And that just is not a helpful perspective. Like, everything should be great news. Actually, the failings are the good news, because that's almost only where the learning happens, when something doesn't work. Which in jiu-jitsu, a lot of learning comes when you go against somebody that you're much better than. So it doesn't make sense. If I'm way better than somebody and training with them, how does that make me better? Because I'm not failing, am I? But you are failing, because you're trying to maybe triangle choke them from your guard, and maybe it's imperfect and it doesn't work, and you get a regard and then you try again. But the failings then are so insignificant that they don't hurt your identity. Does that make sense?
Right. Because you're still controlling the match.
Still controlling the
match.
But
I mean, even at your level, you can have lots of little failures even against a white belt, right?
Yeah.
Say I had to try 3 times to take him down.
Right.
Even if you then took him down, right?
Right.
What went wrong the first
But
2
you
times?
probably get better mistakes when you go against somebody who's really, really good. So then when it doesn't work, because that's your highest level of competition. So when you go compete, you're not going to go against somebody you're way better than. And if you do, then it's not even worthwhile, right?
Right.
So the mistake. So if I'm going against somebody who's really, really good, and I make some mistake and they sweep me, that mistake probably has more value than the little subtlety I'll pick up when I'm going against a white belt, for example.
What do you think about this though? Say I'm going against someone who's a black belt with an awesome guard and I can't pass. Sometimes I almost feel like it's not a learning opportunity because I'm sort of like, I just can't get past them and I don't even know exactly what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah,
And,
I think you're right.
I can't spot it.
I don't have any context to find the mistake. And I'm getting emotionally discouraged because I'm just getting so shut down and so freaking dominated. Yeah, then you got to fight to find the most important mistake you can out of that. But yeah, I think you're right. That can happen.
Or for me, sometimes I just don't even know what happened. You know what I mean? It's sort of like I got swept. I don't know what I did wrong. I just got swept.
Right.
And then you get tapped and you go, I'm not sure what I did wrong. You just kind of grab my neck and tap me, you know?
Yeah, and then so I think that's very important. You have to do what you could call a post-mortem on your roles or even your little events like that. What exactly happened? And your training partner,
You should be able to ask them, right?
Yeah, and they should explain it to you. If they're a good training partner, they'll explain it to you. I was listening to Mikey Musumeci. He's an American jiu-jitsu player who's, I think, the only American who's a 3-time world champion. And I don't think he was talking. It was hard to completely understand what he's saying. He wasn't crystal clear in his communication because I think he's just figuring it out himself. But he says he kind of trains unconsciously and then learns something and then makes it conscious. So in other words, maybe he's trying to pass the half guard and he's going against another really good player and they'll go real hard and something happens and he passes and gets the mount and he'll go, wait a minute, what did I just do? Like he's working so quickly, he's in his unconscious. And he's at such a level that even his experimentations are more likely to have, fruitful outcomes than somebody who has no context. And then they stop and they think. They go, oh, you put your knee here, and then you threw your leg over here like this. And then he takes that unconscious thing that, something that came from an unconscious experiment, and he makes it conscious. And then the reason for making it conscious is when it's deliberate, now you can make it repeatable. You can do it again in the future, and you can add on to your known systems.
Right. And I would say again, what do you think about this? That this sort of attitude of learning, it'd be good for anyone going to the academy or to kind of spread it, right? To not.
Absolutely. I think it's good for any part of your life if you think about it, right? You create a learning process for jiu-jitsu, a learning process for your career, your finance, your relationships.
Yourself. Your own.
Then you really can't lose, right?
Relationships is a good one. How many people, including you and I, stop and think, am I doing things right? Could I do better? Have I done things wrong? Most people don't. You know what I mean?
They don't. And you get involved in I hired these guys to install my floor, and it cost $4,000 to put some rubber down. That's kind of a lot of money, right? Yeah. I didn't really have to do it, but it looks it looks great. And they installed it when I was in Vegas, and they kind of screwed up, and they left like this 4x4 square that I wanted covered in mat with bare concrete. So now I'm just like so annoyed and infuriated, and I'm not learning from the process as much as I'm getting pissed off. Right. And I'm going back and forth with these guys. And in one sense, it's good that I'm angry because they're more responsive to fix it. But I'm spending too many minutes and hours in my head furious about this stupid little mat issue,
Right. You think you should just deal with it. Like, here's the steps I need to take. Take the steps.
Take the steps. Maybe express anger. Maybe that is one of the steps, and then stop feeling anger and just drop it. Right. Yeah. But so I was doing that. So they're going to come fix it this week, and the guy says, all right, we're coming. We can't come, but we'll come in October as originally planned. And then when he put as originally planned, that just pissed me off. It's like, I paid for this stuff in July. How could October be as originally planned, you know? But he's a salesperson. He thinks he's finessing you, bullshitting you, buffaloing you. And, man, that just annoyed me to no end. But I should learn not to get annoyed by silly salespeople, doing their lies or whatever they do. He's convincing himself of something. I don't know what he's doing.
Right. Mr. Spock would not get angry about it.
He would not. He would just neck pinch the guy and break his neck maybe. All right, Dan,
Yeah.
let's wrap up. So
Yeah, a lot of points. Hard to wrap up, though, I think.
Another cornucopia of wisdom this episode has been.
Good stuff. Like I said, if at least you and I are bettering ourselves with it,
That's right.
it's the most important
There's
part.
2 people
Yeah.
out of 7 billion. Well, we did. Dennis Medina was so nice. He posted one of our episodes on Facebook and
Right.
said some really
Shout out
nice
to
things.
Dennis Medina.
Thank you, Dennis. You're now a super fan. Chris Ramos commented on one of the YouTube videos again. He's our strong super fan. John Burke is a super fan, of course. He sent me a comment about one of the recent episodes, so I appreciate all of that. So today we talked about the Jerry Seinfeld method calendar.
Again, and I'm going to bring it up again because it's worked so well for me.
And what does it cost to get I have an annual calendar that
I printed it out
you
from
print
the
it out.
minute.
So I mean, $10 is the most you're going to invest in this process, and boy, you're going to get way more value out of it than that. So we talked about that, and then we talked about just being objective about our mistakes, looking for mistakes, harvesting as many learning opportunities as possible in our life, whatever area it is, and not be, we had that T-shirt for a while that said, "Here to improve, not to prove." It comes back to that, believe it or not.
And being able to step back and say, "Am I doing something wrong? What did I do wrong here?"
Right.
For almost anything, for whether it's jiu-jitsu or
And
not.
insulating your identity from mistakes. Like your
Right.
identity's fine. It's over here. You can make some mistakes and just improve everything
Right.
and stay on your path in your process, in your system. If you're trying to protect your identity by not acknowledging these mistakes, you're missing out on huge learning opportunities, which is just a shame. And I got to work on myself in jiu-jitsu, even in the gym, just looking at everything as a learning opportunity. Get even better at that. I think that's a lot of value right there. I don't know what the hell else we talked about. But. All right, man. So this was great. Thanks for another great podcast.
I did think of one more thing.
Yeah.
Which is I have that same shirt that you're wearing.
I got the Power of the Tribe
But
shirt.
the key learning for today was I almost wore it today. And then we usually go out after this.
That would have been great.
And I don't know if we'd be able to even go out, right? Wearing matching shirts.
Sure.
I guess we could. I'm not a big matching shirt person, but
it would be a little weird.
Yeah.
That would be.
It'd draw a lot of stares.
Yeah.
So just
they would think we're on some kind of game show.
Might have to bring a spare shirt or something like that.
The Great Race was that the TV show? Yeah.
The Amazing Race.
Yeah, and you have a Connor shirt on as well. Perfect. Awesome. Well, next time I'll text you what shirt I'm wearing, just so we don't have this predicament. We've avoided it after 50 some odd episodes here.
Yeah.
So we're doing pretty good. All right, man. Please, everybody, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to this podcast in whatever application you use, iTunes or whatever it is. Tell people about it. Share it on Facebook. And
Click the like button.
Hit the like button, for God's sakes.
Isn't it a little funny that people still don't hit the like button? That I just don't. Even after us saying it,
Dan, people want to conserve energy, so that takes a little bit of energy.
guess
Moving
it
the
does, I
mouse
guess.
and going, beep.
or is it passive aggressive? They're like, "Screw you" and your like button. Maybe
if they had a screw you button, we would have better
or
information.
maybe me even saying this is making them like, you
Oh.
can't tell me, to hit
Mr.
the like.
Man.
Yeah. I'm not hitting the like button.
You can't
Just 'cause
tell me
you
what
said.
to do. That's human nature. Oh, so folks, if you don't feel like pushing the like button, don't do it.
Yeah, if you feel
it's
like it,
entirely up to you.
we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, if you're one of those intelligent, discerning listeners,
Yeah,
and
all the
viewers,
better listeners do press the like
then
button.
go right
but-
ahead and hit that like button. Awesome. See you next week.